guys, and welcome to the Get a Life podcast. And you're like, Bish, where'd the episodes come? Like, what you promised a marvelous episode, an episode with Koei. They're coming, guys. Okay, just leave me alone. I have so much to do. Okay. In the meantime, we have an episode with Matthew Sainsbury, or Matt Sainsbury from Digitally Downloaded.
Hello.
Mainly, what we're here to talk about. I just want to give like an overview because he released a new game. I'll let you talk about it, Matt, but released a new game and it's fantastic. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit about Digitally Downloaded, as well as DD, the protagonist of this game. So I'll leave it to you, Matt.
Right, okay. Thanks for the intro.
It's alright, that's not a problem.
It's great to be here. I do like the podcast. I listen.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a very good boy. I listen to your podcasts. But yes, thank you for letting me jump on and chat about my little visual novel that I created. I guess, how can I describe it? It is a visual novel. I released it on itch.io a couple of days ago, and yes, it's something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, but thanks to the my complete lack of ability with anything to do with coding, I haven't really touched game creation before. But then there was a tool that was released called Visual Novel Maker, and that's very it's very drag and drop, and it kind of takes all the coding requirements away from me. So I was able to focus just on getting all the art together and actually writing the thing. And from that point, I've realized that I could do it. So I set about to it, and it's out now. So it's a shortish visual novel. It's 2 to 3 hours worth of total contents if you play through kind of each time and read through the whole thing. There are four endings. And there's a little bit of bonus stuff in there as well. But it is my first. The plan is to kind of build from here to keep doing them. If you follow me on my Patreon, you kind of get them for free, and that was where the concept for it came from. It was kind of a gift back to my Patreons, and the plan was to do them fairly regularly. I haven't got exact timeframes, but every couple of months to release a new one. So. Yeah, it's been an interesting process. It's been a long process. It's doing these game things is harder than you might expect, I think. Even when you're not coding them, there's still all kinds of things that go wrong, and you need to figure out how to fix them. So it's almost like a puzzle game in itself.
One thing that I was really interested to know is that how do you have the time? Because obviously you do run the website Digitally Downloaded, and you have your podcast going on, and you have everything. So how do you have the time to kind of focus on this visual novel project?
I have insomnia.
Okay. That's a great answer.
Yeah, no, I actually do have insomnia, which is it's not a good thing, of course, but it does mean that I have an awful lot of time on my hands where I can't sleep and stuff. So I actually get a lot done in each day without necessarily getting as much sleep as I need to. But I find that doing these kind of creative things helps. So it stimulates the mind in such a way that I can actually relax and then sleep afterwards. So I actually found that for the visual novels, it was best to work on them fairly late at night after I've pretty much done everything else. So yeah, it's been, balancing out everything, because like you said, we do have the website and the podcast and the video stuff that I do and all that stuff, balancing all of that out, and the fact I actually have to play all these bloody games is a challenge, but yeah, it's something you learn to work with, I guess.
So I have to commend you for that, because to be honest with you, I'm having a lot of difficulty trying to figure out how I'm gonna make sure a podcast comes out. I don't even do my podcast weekly, it's a monthly podcast, so it's like I have to work out how am I going to get these many episodes out and editing and this and that. So I couldn't really imagine, how much time and effort goes into kind of creating a visual novel, even if you are making it with, the help of a visual novel creating tool, right? So tell us what kind of goes into it, because I'm very interested to know that, because obviously there is artwork, there is voice acting in this novel as well, and the story. So kind of what was your process? So what did you start off with first, and then did you start with the story first? Did you start with the backdrops? Did you start with, finding a voice for DD? Like how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so like you say, I mean, this project isn't just mine, of course. There's a lot of other creative talent that went into it. I didn't do the art. I can't do art at all, so that's one other person that I had to find to visualize a lot of it. And then the voice of Dee Dee is obviously not me. You wouldn't want me to be the voice of
Why not? I think that would
a
be great.
cute girl. I could try, but
Maybe
it
for a
might be a
Halloween
bit
update.
embarrassing. Yeah, that'd probably be best. Me cosplaying as Dee Dee. But yeah, so I had the concept first, obviously. The idea of what I roughly wanted to do, and I already had the voice actor because. Like I said earlier, this is kind of an ongoing project, and I needed to find the voice before I started to do anything. So I found the voice for Dee Dee first, and she'll be returning to do every visual novel, hopefully into the distance for quite some time to come. But yeah, once I had the concept, the next step was to create a rough idea of the scenes because I needed to give the artist. Briefs for all the backgrounds and all the various key scenes and all that kind of stuff. So once I had that locked down, it was just a matter of kind of filling it in and writing it. And at that point, I had the script, which I could send to the voice actor to record. So roughly speaking, it went concept, engaging with the artist to create all the backgrounds and stuff, and then I guess finalizing the script and then sending it over to the voice actor to record. So yeah, it was a good process. I mean, there was a lot of editing that went through, and I had to keep going back, and I had to get stuff re-recorded. I had to get some key arts redone when I wasn't happy with them after I'd actually written the scene and all that kind of stuff. So it needed to be flexible, but yeah, it was always best to go ahead.
From start to finish, I mean, how long did it take? I mean, from initial conception to final product that was released, like how long did that take? 6 months, a year, 2 years, like?
Well, not quite that long, because yes, once again, my goal is to get these out fairly quickly, so the Patreons get something fairly often to play. So I do need to work fairly rapidly on these things. Luckily, I'm a pretty fast writer when I need to get down and get things done. My Steam library thing says that I've been playing this visual novel maker for about 250 hours, and then that doesn't obviously include the time that I've spent engaging with the artists and writing the script and storyboarding it out and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say about 500 hours in total worth of work went into this one.
But do you think that will reduce as you create more, like getting used to the program and just writing scripts, etc.? Do you think that time, that 500 hours, that's going to be shortened maybe to like 200 hours, or for like future volumes of the novel?
Yeah. So I mean, the plan is to reuse a lot of the assets that are obviously being created for this one for future visual novels, because now I've got backgrounds, which is great. I was starting from absolute scratch basically with this VN, so I've got backgrounds I can use. I've got character sprites that have already been designed. So a lot of the basis is already there. Obviously, I'll need to get new stuff done depending on the theme of the future visual novels and stuff, but there's a lot there that I can already work with. I've already got a big library of voice samples of Dee Dee that I can reuse as well. So I would say that a good part of the creative side of things is already there, and I can actually start playing around with that kind of stuff without having to wait for the art to come in and things. So I do expect that future ones will be easier on my time, and the amount that I'll need to get actually added will be relatively shorter time frames. So yeah, that's a good thing. It's always hardest when you get started. Like, just getting things off the ground is always the most difficult part.
I mean, do you think it'll be difficult to also maintain? Because I mean, this story that we saw for the first volume of the visual novel was very intense. Are we going to see a direct sequel, or is the next one going to focus on a different topic? Because you did mention that each volume is going to have a different Dee Dee. You see what I mean? So, I mean, how is that going to work? Because I kind of felt a bit on edge with the previous one. Like, it kind of ended on a cliffhanger. I really wanted to know what's going to happen next. Are we going to see a continuation from the current story, or the next one is going to be a completely different story? If you can say that.
I'm very flexible. I can pretty much do anything I want. I mean, it is my project. If people do want to see a sequel, I can always do one. The plan is not to do a sequel at this stage, do a direct sequel to this one, because as I mentioned, the overall goal is to have each visual novel take on a topic and then kind of explore that topic in through a kind of creative way. So the first visual novel is based on the erotic thriller, which is a cinema genre which I find very interesting, and had to get that one off my chest first. But I'm certainly not locked into future visual novels also following the kind of the erotic thriller line. So the next one I have planned, there's a couple I've got going in my mind. I do want to do something based on kind of Japanese horror themes. I do want to do something that's a little bit more surrealist in tone. I want to explore Shakespeare as well. I'm a big fan of Shakespeare and feel like that's there too. Because I mean, a big part of these visual novels is to be, I guess, informative in a way as well, because I wanted to tie them back to what Digitally Downloaded does, and Digitally Downloaded being a website that kind of focuses on providing information and informing people. I always felt that these visual novels would be a good way of kind of exploring some of the stuff I talk about on the website in a creative way. So there's so many things that I've got planned. I've actually got a list of 12 different themes that I want to address via visual novels, which, you know, at one every 2 months, I'd be looking at least 2 years worth of the ends there, and that's before even taking into account what people might ask me for in the future, like sequels.
Let's say, you know, you do maybe 2 years worth of visual novels. You ever see yourself making like an omnibus or like a compilation just in one VN?
It all just depends on how this idea takes off. When I say I've got 12 visual novels, the reality is that they do cost money to make, and they're very time intensive. So if there's no return there for me, obviously I'm not going to be able to sustain this over the long term. Working on the assumption that I can make this work as kind of a thing, then yes, there's certainly so many different areas I can go. I feel like when it came time to do a Steam release, for example, because at the moment they're only available on itch, and that's really kind of all I can afford because itch doesn't cost anything to upload games to. You know, at some point I possibly want to do a Steam release, and for that I feel like kind of short visual novels of 2 to 3 hours is not what a Steam audience would be receptive to. So pulling together a few of them and releasing them as a package would be one way around that. And then there's other ideas as well that I'd like to play with. If this does become something commercially viable, I'd like to explore some different types of games as well, and, you know, work with a game developer so I don't have to do the coding, but come up with some, you know, different ideas to explore using these characters.
When playing the game itself, I actually played it on the Mac, but I mean, I see the game working well, and forgive me for saying this because I never think this is going to happen because of, you know, the nudity and some erotic themes, etc. But I see this kind of doing well on the Switch.
I would love to do that, because I do. Visual novels are better on handhelds. That's just a basic, you know, reality. People, you know, the visual novel being a visual novel is close to a reading experience, and the Switch being a handheld console, you can actually have that kind of, you know, it's like you've got a book in your hands kind of experience.
Yeah.
So definitely I'd love to do that. With regards to the nudity, I would suspect that Nintendo would be like no to that one particular scene in which there is, you know, overt nudity. I have got a censored version of that image that I got made up, so I could always insert that if I needed to.
You could, yeah, you could.
The elevator scene would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see whether Nintendo was like, no, we don't want to go with that on our storefront.
I mean, you can try. There's a lot of interesting games on, you know, the Switch. Like, you got like Aerogay. There's quite a lot of Aerogay on the Switch, but they're like, obviously this censored Steam versions, you know, like Necopara, stuff like that. So I mean, it's possible. And the fact that Honey Pop 2 is probably coming to the Switch as well, like, you know, stuff like this, I don't see Nintendo sort of like shying away. It's not like Sony, at least the way that I see it. Maybe you need to like edit it a little bit, but I don't see them cracking down on that kind of content.
And there will be future visual novels which don't push boundaries quite as far as this one, because this was based on the erotic thriller. There were certain elements I needed to include in this that I wouldn't necessarily feel the need to with other topics. I do like my fan service, and I'm pretty sure that every visual novel has some kind of element of fan service in there. But going quite that far, I don't think so. As for consoles, I mean, there's a lot of programming and stuff that you need to deal with as well, with making console ports of these kinds of things, then I would need to engage with a developer. So again,
Yeah.
it's just whether there's the kind of commercial viability there for it. I'd love it because I love my Switch and I love playing games on consoles wherever possible. It's just it's about growing it to the point where I can kind of afford to do that, really.
Fair enough. I think one thing that's really interesting about this visual novel, because in essence I kind of saw it as an eroge, right? Like an erotic game, only because of that couple of scenes. But what would you class it as? Would you class it as, at least this volume, would you class it as an eroge? Would you class it as a VN? What is it?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. I mean, when you mentioned on Twitter the other day that you saw it as an eroge, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I can see that. I can see where you're coming from with there. I don't know, to be honest. To me, eroge means that the sex content is kind of front and center to the game experience, and the kind of everything's built around that. Whereas with this one, I kind of hope that people would see that as part of the storytelling process, but not the focus, if that makes sense. So it's more like one of those kind of R18 films that still get played in the cinema. They have the sex content and all that kind of stuff, but they're not kind of, pornographic in tone. I certainly wanted to make sure that this stuff was kind of contextual and made sense within the narrative.
There was this one scene. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm gonna spoil it. Spoilers if anyone's listening. But there's this one scene within the game, and it kind of made me think about the Joker. I don't know if you've seen the Joker film, the one that's recently released.
I actually haven't yet. It's been something that's been on my list, but I've been in Japan and stuff, so I haven't really been able to find the time for it just yet.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil the film, but I mean, there are moments within the film where there are events that are happening, but then it kind of flips and you don't know what's real anymore. And there was this one scene within the game that was after the elevator scene. It was that elevator scene, and then it flipped, and I was just like, what is real life anymore? Like, what is happening? Is this like, it's kind of like in between dream and reality, and it's just like, what is this? It's all up in the air, and I'm like, did this really happen? And then obviously it kind of flips, and it's like, oh no, okay, it's just in his head. But I mean, it was, mamma mia, that was a spicy meatball. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was really I don't know, like I'm playing a lot of eroge and stuff, so I mean, I'm used to it, but I wasn't necessarily used to it that time. It just got me. Like, I was just like, what is this? It was great, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it was just very 0 to 100 very quickly. And, for me, I didn't know how to react. I was pleasantly surprised, but I mean, it was too much for me to handle. Just because Dee Dee as a character to me seems very, like, cute and, like, very sort of innocent. And then you flipped on that switch, and I was like, okay, this is where we're going now. So how do you kind of imagine Dee Dee as a character? Because obviously you've written this, so obviously my expectations of the character isn't what you've basically written. So what do you think Dee Dee should be? Like, what is Dee Dee? Who is Dee Dee?
Yeah, okay. Long question, long answer. That was a really difficult scene to actually write, because I'm actually very protective of Dee Dee. I've had her as the mascot for DDNet for 5 years now or so. So yeah, she's got a very specific. There's a very specific type that's in my head when I think of Dee Dee, and that scene is not her. But that's kind of the point, because how can we do this without doing spoilers? There's a flip in there which makes it quite clear that that's not who Dee Dee is. That's just an idea that the character has, the main character, the protagonist, Hugh. That scene came from the cinema genre. One of the things about the erotic thriller, which is a cinema genre of the 80s and 90s, so a lot of people who play this probably haven't seen too many of those kinds of films. That genre is quite misogynist in tone and quite male dominated, and it's usually about the man kind of taking what he wants, basically. I guess the most modern example is probably the 50 Shades series of books and films and whatever. So it's all that kind of very hyper-masculine kind of dominance at play, and I wanted to really kind of flip that around entirely and kind of be quite subversive to it, so that the game didn't take on that kind of really uncomfortably seedy tone that you get when you watch one of those erotic thrillers today, because culture's moved on and those kinds of films aren't really appropriate anymore. So when I was writing this scene, I wanted to I still wanted it to be a homage to the genre, but I wanted to do it in a way that is kind of modern. Yeah, I came up with the approach that I did. It did mean that I needed to use Dee Dee in a way that isn't quite how I see her, and certainly not the character that you'll see in future VNs as well. Because, like you identified, she's cute, she's sweet, she's flirty, but she's not that kind of raunchy character.
It's like certain characters, like in gaming and anime, they're just too nice, and you're like, don't loot this, please. No, just no. But I mean, it was done in a very interesting way, and I kind of get where you're coming from. It was just a shock. That was just it. It was just a shock. I don't know what else to say about that, but it was used well. There was another thing that I really wanted to talk about in addition to that was the endings, because this game has 4 endings, right? And you made a joke saying all the endings are bad because you're a horrible person. And it's true. All the endings are bad. Like, what is up with that? There's no true... Like, for me, I'm expecting a shit ending, a good ending, and a true ending. What is the true ending? Which ending is the true one?
Okay, so yeah, at the very least, 3 of the endings are pretty terrible. One of the endings is nicer, I think, because everybody ends up
it's happily
on
ever after.
top.
I'm not a fan of the ending. That ending was just garbage. No offense. It wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah, so that's kind of the point, isn't it? The erotic thriller doesn't have good endings. The cinema genre doesn't have good endings. There isn't always there's never a time where you're watching one of those films and everybody comes out on top, and there is no kind of happily ever after stories with those. So that was kind of a necessity again from the genre point of view, that I needed to write these endings. And when I decided that I was going to do this, I realized that at least some of those endings are going to be pretty hard and heavy and, if not outright kind of uncomfortable. So I wanted to have fun with at least one of them. The first ending you can get if you make the wrong choice early on is pretty nonsense and silly and doesn't go anywhere. So that's kind of the silly bad ending. Then I do have the good ending, I guess, as such, which is kind of a canonical kind of Dee Dee character, because in that one nothing kind of happens to her, and the protagonist realizes what's going on, and it's all kind of they get over it and move on, and nothing really goes wrong from that point. And that's kind of the idea. That's the actual character of Dee Dee then, because then she's not kind of wrapped up in this kind of erotic thriller story. The other 2 endings are both pretty horrible, and that's true to the genre. Most erotic thrillers end in one of those 2 ways.
They were the most interesting endings to me, right? And I really wanted to see what happens. I was like, no, this can't end like this. Like, I was hooked on that part. I think that's what kind of flipped it to me and made me think that this is just the most amazing VN that I've played this year. I've played a lot of VNs this year. Like, Valhalla was great. Like, I'm not comparing it to Valhalla because it's 2 completely different games, but I mean, it's on par for me. It's just amazing. I think if anyone's listening, it's only $8. Is it $8 American or $8 Australian?
It's $8 on itch when I look at the itch. I don't know if that translates. I think that might be American bucks.
Okay.
It might be.
We'll just say $8 American. So $8 American, that's nothing, man. You could just... that's like a Starbucks trip. Like, don't go to Starbucks and just buy this game. Like, it's that good. You're going to find that you're going to enjoy spending that $8. That's just my opinion.
You can back me on Patreon, and if you do that for just $1 a month, then you get access to the visual novels.
Okay.
For no additional cost. Because this was always the plan, was to offer these first up as games for Patreon backers. That's the kind of thank you note to the Patreon backers for supporting all the other stuff I do. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that they got that stuff, super cheap. So.
Because you mentioning your Patreon, if you already support Matt on Patreon, still buy the game and give it to a friend. There you go. Economics 101, Matt.
That'd be lovely, because the more sales that this thing makes, obviously the better the next one can be. Yeah, and I can continue to invest in stuff. So the next visual novel is going to have more characters. It's not just going to be Dee Dee. I've already got designs coming in for 2 characters, and the goal is to eventually they're all going to be voiced. Everything's okay. I'm committed to keeping the same level of quality throughout. I've already recruited one additional voice actor for one of the characters. I've got to find a voice actor for another one, but the goal is to build it up to 6 characters in the end.
Oh, okay. Okay. So is it like a harem situation?
Yes.
How does this
Yes, I'm very much inspired by Data Live, actually.
Okay.
And that's a great visual novel. I want to give a plug for that. If you haven't played that one, you absolutely should. Idea Factory released it on PS4 and PC, I think. Earlier in the year, it was like a package of 3 of the Data Live games, and they're wonderful visual novels. I love them a great deal. And they're kind of harem style with 6 or 7 or 8, maybe it's even more. There's a whole lot of characters in there, and they all have their own individual types and stuff. So that's the goal, is to build it up to that kind of thing. I've got some really funky stuff coming in where there'll be more kind of freedom, because this visual novel is there's 3 choices through the course of the VN, and that's basically all the interactivity. It's kind of one of those old style VNs, but I'm looking at adding kind of open maps of the area, and you can pick which part of the map that you want to go to in future VNs, and depending on who's there, you have different interactions, and the story will be a little bit more fluid in how it plays out. So these are things I'm all looking at, but I've got to build to those because of the approach I've taken. This Patreon approach means that I need to release a new game every couple of months. So I'm kind of building up to all of that stuff. But yes, keep an eye out. If you don't want to invest in my Patreon just yet, you can just watch it. And if you watch it, you get all kind of news updates as I release them. I'll be unveiling one of the new characters probably within the next week. So work continues very quickly with me.
Yeah, I can imagine. That must be very stressful, to be honest with you. Like I mentioned, I can't even handle my own podcast, and here you are dealing with all of this. Like, isn't it intense? Like, don't you find sometimes that it's a bit too much?
I just enjoy it that much. And I mean, ultimately, like I've said, I need to make this work commercially in order to continue to do it, because I've got, house rent to pay, I've got food to buy and stuff. So there are those realities, but I just enjoy doing this so much that it doesn't feel stressful to me in the sense that I just want to do them. And I've got so many ideas that I've built up over the years that I've said, I want to do a visual novel on this, I want to kind of address this topic, I love this thing, and I want to tell a story around it, all of that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of being able to make it work. And on the technical side, on the development side, I now have the tool that I need to be able to do it. So, it's not hard. It's time consuming. It's tiring, but it's not hard.
Because you say it's time consuming, it's not difficult, but I mean, sometimes it would be a bit stressful, no?
To be honest, not yet.
Okay.
I get stressed about things that, when I've got hard deadlines and things, and I'm not going to be able to hit those deadlines. That's when I get stressed, and the work I do outside of everything else, I have deadlines, and that's where the great sources of stress in my life come from. But with this, because I haven't set specific deadlines, and it's more about, it goes out when it's done. It's not like I'm in a Naughty Dog situation, where I need to go out there and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to have to delay this, and because I'm not a major corporation, I don't have to have it released within the financial year. Otherwise, everybody loses their job. So I don't have those kinds of stresses on me. I have a responsibility, I guess, to make the game as good as possible, because I am asking for people to pay for it. But that's something that I'm relatively, confident that I have the ability to write an interesting story. As long as I can do that, as long as I can get the art together, and I have some great, I love the people that I work with on these projects. I've got no worries with them. Because of all of that, I just don't feel that kind of intense pressure to make these things within certain parameters. The other thing is, the games don't really have a fan base yet. I mean, I guess now there is one. I mean, I've got to make sure that the next visual novel impresses you, for example. Otherwise, I'll feel like I'll let you down if the next one doesn't back up what I've done with this one.
If it's not up to par, I will tell you, this is garbage. This is shit.
Exactly, and I don't want that. I mean, I certainly would never. It's not so much that if I had criticisms come back and say this is a terrible game and stuff, I'd certainly feel bad, but only in the sense that it didn't deliver something that somebody was interested. I'm quite comfortable with the negative feedback, but the goal is always to make sure that people enjoy what I've done. So with this one, there were no kind of expectations. I could just throw it out there and hope for the best and hope that people enjoyed it. So there was a bit of nerves involved, but it wasn't like I felt like I had to meet a certain level of standards. The next one, there will be expectations, I guess, from people who played this one. So that's going to be interesting to see if it converts into stress or not.
Fair enough. For those who don't know, right, DD is the mascot for Digitally Downloaded. And I only realized this yesterday, the name, DD, Digitally Downloaded.
Yes.
It's so smart, man. I really, you deserve a pat on the back for that.
It came from the shorthand for the site, because we all refer to the site as DDNet, kind of internally within the DDNet team. So DDNet, and then I realized, well, DD sounds almost like a nickname. And then I started looking around for something that I could turn into DD as a nickname. And Danica came up as a name that kind of worked. So that's her proper name. It's Danica. But yeah, she's just DD. Everyone calls her by her nickname, and that's that. So that's who she is.
So, I mean, where did the whole... Because I know you've had her as a mascot for a long time, right? Even on your podcast, I've noticed, like, even every episode maybe not every episode, but majority of episodes have new artwork. You know, her wearing a kimono, or her, you know, gardening. Or do you see what I mean? So where did the initial design come from? Like, what was your mindset for, like, designing DD, and who designed it as well?
Actually, it was a really talented artist whose name I can't remember now. I've lost contact with him, unfortunately. But the original DD came from an artist that I found on DeviantArt. There's an awful lot of really talented anime artists over there, and there's you can easily commission some people to do up art for you. In terms of where the idea for DD came from, it was actually Hatsune Miku, funnily enough. Huge fan of Hatsune Miku. But not just the character, I'm also a really big fan of how the company used her to really sell their software. So Hatsune Miku, for people who don't know, is a Vocaloid. She's a musical instrument, which is basically just a digital bit of software that you type lyrics into the software and she'll sing them, and you can manipulate the notes and all that, so she can basically sing anything that you want. But the software is really dull. Like, it's a really dull bit of software because it's just, you know, it's professional music equipment. So it's functional without being particularly interesting. So the company obviously wanted to sell this stuff and to really sell, I guess, the broader community on the value of it. So they created this character as the mascot, and Hatsune Miku's kind of gone gangbusters from there. She does concerts and all kinds of stuff now, and people are really big fans of her as a kind of a digital celebrity. So I wanted to do my small part to emulate that. I realized that because digitally-downloaded.net covers a lot of anime and video games and Japanese games,
yeah,
you know, Japanese culture, it actually made sense to have a mascot as well, because everything in Japan has mascot. I mean, you get off the plane in Tokyo and the customs, you go through customs, and I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in Australia you go through customs and you've got these all the customs guards of these people who are basically not good enough to be cops, and they march around like they're kind of God's gift. And
from what I know about the Australian customs, they're very rude. Like, you can't bring in, well, why can't you bring fruits into Australia? What's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with fruits? Why don't you guys like fruits? Like, what's wrong with that?
Oh, they're convinced that if you bring a fruit into the country, every one of our local plants will get diseased or something or other. So yeah, they're very tough, and they walk around like they're very tough, and you know they try to intimidate you wherever you go, and it's a very intimidating process to come into Australia.
Yeah.
But over in Japan, you come in and they've got customs people who are just people, but there's also this huge dog character that you see when you walk into the area. Yeah, and it's because his name is Custom Kun, and he's a mascot for Custom, and it's very welcoming. You know, it's very bright, it's very colourful, it's very, you know, hey, you're in Japan now, don't feel intimidated. You know, here's a cute dog to look at. So mascots are everywhere in Japan. Everything has a mascot. Every brand has a mascot. Every city has a mascot. Every region has a mascot. You know, digitally downloaded being what it is focused on Japanese stuff, kind of needed a mascot. So that's where DD came from. I needed a mascot. And then I was looking around, and a lot of the other kind of websites that focus on Japanese content that have mascots, their mascots are very much the kind of the super otaku kind of super fan servicey, huge boobs kind of characters. And I didn't want to do that. For one thing, I don't think that Popeye is particularly attractive, to be honest.
Oh wow, okay, that's a hot take.
I no, it is a hot take, but it is what it is. Flat is justice and all that. But no, I came up with Dee Dee because I wanted her to be more, a kind of sweet, kind of cute character.
I mean, for me, even looking at Dee Dee, I was just like, I don't know, no one knows about this yet, but I'll say it here. The podcast is going to be 10 years old next year, and we were kind of planning on creating an art book, and within that art book, we were going to show off our own mascot. And I kind of came with the idea when I looked at Dee Dee, right? Because I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. I like that. And at the moment, we're kind of taking other properties and just using that and abusing that in a little bit. So I mean, we kind of have to get away from that. So we're in the process of making our own one. That's exclusive for you guys listening.
Is the tweet still there? Because
it has. I think I showed it to you, right? You saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Is your tweet still there?
I think it's still up. No, I think it's still up. I mean, I'm gonna keep it there because I was sleep deprived, so I'm not gonna delete any tweets. Like #Bish After Dark. Like I don't delete any of that stuff.
I love her. She's so cute.
I mean, the way I didn't even design that one. So there's this thing online that basically it's an AI that draws a waifu for you. Like you just select what you want and it designs. So it's an AI that designs it. So that one, her name is P-E-A, not P-E-E. Just so you guys know. Because it kind of stems from a mail bot that I used to have to organize my emails. So P stands for Podcast Electronic Assistant. So she just used to sort my emails. It was just a bot that would answer emails and just be a menace. But we stopped using her. I mean, so now we're trying to bring her back. I'm just excited because it's like even Dee Dee and P and things like that. Like it kind of reminds me of Ai-chan. I don't know if you know of Ai.
Yes.
Yeah, the virtual YouTuber. It reminds me of her, and I like that. I really do. I think that's pretty cute and it's really nice, and even to see her have a personality like in the game, it's very interesting. The voice. Let's talk about the voice, because I originally assumed that she would be Australian because obviously you're Australian, and even the people on your podcast are Australian. So it's like, oh, it's kind of connected to the company. I assumed it would be more of an Australian thing. Why didn't you go for Australian voice? Why did you go for an American accent?
Yeah, that's a good one. The thing is, if people hear an Australian accent, they hear Australia. That makes sense. It's not that common of an accent, and it's quite distinctive when it's heard. Whereas the American accent is kind of ubiquitous to the point where she has an American accent, but you're not going to immediately assume that the game is based in America, because it's not. She's not. I didn't actually give it's not based anywhere in the real world anyway, but I haven't actually, made it clear where all these characters live and whatever. But it's certainly not America. But the American accent is one that you hear is quite neutral. And that's because, Hollywood films and so much TV that we watch and so many kind of localized games from Japan all have American accented characters. So it's kind of a default. And I wanted this to fit in with the default so that people weren't thinking of the accent as they were listening to it. They're just listening to the word.
So why did you go with such a neutral American accent? I mean, you could have picked any American. She could have been a Texan. She could have been like a Valley girl. She could have been like, I don't know, she could have been like anything. Why that sort of... It's a cute accent, don't get me wrong. I just it wasn't what I was expecting, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, I could have had a Deep South girl or a New Yorkan or whatever.
She could have been a Southern Belle.
She could have been, but she's not. I didn't want people to think about regional parts of America either. I didn't want them to hear Dee Dee and say, hey, she's Texan. I just wanted people to hear her. And honestly, looking forward, it was also partly looking forward because I always wanted to do additional characters. And those additional characters, it becomes very difficult to find enough voice talent if you go with a specific accent. So if I was to make Dee Dee Texan, then all of the other characters would also need to be, otherwise I would need to explain in every visual novel why this other character sounds different, and I didn't want to deal with that. Basically, I was really inspired by the voice of Rise from Persona 4.
Okay.
The American voice of Rise, Laura Bailey's performance of Rise, which is a very kind of flat, neutral kind of teen girl American accent. And I really just wanted that kind of sound on the ears.
Now, come to think of it, it does kind of give me Rise vibes. I mean, I don't personally enjoy Rise Kujikawa. Like, she's like the worst Persona character.
That's blasphemy. That is blasphemy.
I mean,
I'm going now.
It's up to you. You can leave. I mean, I'm going to cut that all out, and I'm just going to have that repeating for the whole hour. I fucking hate Rise. Like, Rise Kujikawa is the worst Persona character, right? She doesn't even deserve a Persona. Like, that's how I see it. She doesn't deserve a Persona.
Oh, where are we going? This is controversial. I'm gonna have to pull out my essay. I've got an essay.
You have an essay?
On why Rise is the best character. Yep, why Rise is the best character.
Okay. Best girl in Persona 4. You're saying it's Rise?
Oh, by far.
You're wrong. The best girl.
You're gonna say Chie. You're gonna say.
Yes, it is Chie. Chie and Erin Fitzgerald that plays Chie. Ultimate best girls. Okay. Chie
can get in the trash. She's horrible.
Whoa.
She's terrible.
Whoa.
She's the worst.
Well, you know we had the voice of Chie on the podcast, right?
Oh dear. Whoops. So I'm in trouble now.
We've had Erin like 3 times on this podcast. So Erin, if you're listening, don't listen to what Matt is saying. Chie Satonaka is like the best Persona character, even better than the Persona 5 characters. That's just my opinion.
I mean, Erin had difficult material to work with. I don't blame Erin.
Difficult material? No.
Yeah, she's a terrible character. She's the worst.
No, she's
the only one
character.
that's worse. The only one that's even worse is Futaba from Persona 5. She's just.
Whoa.
She's a walking pain. She is.
What are you doing to
no
me,
fan.
Matt?
I mean, come on, you should be able to guess exactly which Persona 5 character.
You're gonna be like, oh, my favorite character is I forgot even her name. She's so irrelevant. The Anne or whatever her name is.
Yeah, is that of course, she's the best.
No, she isn't. She's shit.
Okay, my Persona 5 experience was I actually basically tapped that game out within the first 10 hours. It's like a 100-hour game, but because I'd maxed out my relationship with Anne within the first 10 hours, I was like, oh, there's nothing else to do here. Can't possibly get better.
No,
I was bored pretty much the rest of it.
No,
I just beelined straight to Anne and just every
you're trash.
Relationship.
This is how I know that you're trash. So the best character in the best even social link in Persona 5 is the one that you get with the Doctor, right? I'm just saying, yeah. So
I can respect the Doctor. She's pretty cool.
The Doctor and the reporter and anyone other than Anne, because Anne is
no. The order is Anne, and then the Shogi girl, and then the Doctor.
I'm surprised that the Shogi girl didn't even get. She was supposed to be in the game as a party member, but they just took her out.
Oh, was she really?
She was.
Oh, now I'm really annoyed. I'm even more annoyed by this game now. I'm not a big fan of Persona 5, I must say, but yeah, now I'm really annoyed. She was great.
She was great. Hifumi, oh man, best girl. But I mean, Anne, shit. She's just trash. I mean, you're saying you don't like Futaba. Futaba's like a great character, and I really relate to her. But anyway, that's besides the point. We're here to talk about your game, not Persona. Have you ever thought about just branching off completely? Because from the way that I understand it, this game is kind of linked to what you guys do on Digitally Downloaded, right? So have you ever thought about branching completely out? Like not even creating something that has DD in it? Maybe a completely new character and a new concept. Have you ever thought about doing that? I know it's early days to say that, but have you ever had that in your mind?
Just purely for the website's branding, I need to have Dee in everything because Dee is the website's kind of soul, and I don't want to waste opportunities to use her. I think she's. I think she's a great character. I really like her, and I want to keep using her. The other characters, one of the other characters that is in development is kind of already there. I just haven't used her that much, and that's Dee Dee's kind of sister.
Okay, so she has a sister. She was mentioned.
She has a sister. I actually have the design for that sister already. I just haven't really rolled it out publicly to any great extent yet. But she'll show up in future games. Her name is Nettie. So after digidownloaded.net.
That's very, very original. I like that.
The other characters that I have in mind, they're all going to be original characters. They're not going to be related to the website in any real way.
We're not going to see Dee Dee's mum?
No, why would I do that?
Why
to be
not,
honest, again, it's I guess budget to get a sprite of Dee Dee's mum up.
Forget it.
Takes...
No, look, just forget about these other original characters, and even forget about Dee Dee's sister. You just need Dee Dee's mum.
No.
Mums in anime and mums in VNs are like top tier. So I mean, you could do that.
The first non kind of harem girl character that I'm gonna do if I do a character is Mr. Longman. I'm looking at doing a sprite up for him because he's cool. I'm a big fan of Mr. Longman, the teacher from the visual novel.
He's a dick, man. He's a dick.
Yeah,
I just want to point that out.
He is, and this is great. This is why he's so great. I'm having more fun writing him than anything else, to be honest. Maybe he needs his own adventure.
But he needs his own visual novel.
Yeah, that's right. Probably won't be so fan servicey, but he's great. Like I referenced throughout the visual novel, I'm a big fan of House. It's a show that I kind of watch on repeat.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do House, but as a teacher, and torturing students rather than his subordinates. So that's he'll be the first non kind of girl character that I get done. But other than that, I'm always open to ideas. But I really do want to get these kind of 6 characters down and cemented first, and that'll take the better part of next year anyway. In the rate I want to introduce them. So after the next one, I introduce 2, and then kind of introduce 1 per visual novel, throughout the year after that. So once I've got those 6 characters, what I can do kind of really opens up. Because I can do small games featuring one of them. I can do games that have nothing to do with visual novels. Featuring the lot of them, I can have a lot of fun with the way that they play off one another. Because one of the things I did find with this visual novel that I wrote, it's actually very difficult to create an entire story when you've got 2 characters to kind of work with, two kind of proper characters, main characters to work with. I feel like having more characters gives me more interactions, which gives me more opportunities for characterization. I can play them off one another in a way that kind of enhances both of their characters. I can create more situations, a wider range of situations. Humor becomes much easier because humor is very difficult when it's just one-to-one, I've found. So really, there's a practical reason to wanting to build up this harem, and that is to really be able to build on the characters of each of them as well, including Dee Dee, of course.
One thing that I did want to mention, and I know it's a small gripe, right? And it's to do with the music. A lot of the music is great. I like the music that's playing during the class. It's lovely. I like the more tense music, that kind of sort of smoother. I don't know if it's jazz or not. I can't really even remember. But one track pissed me off, and it was that sort of porno music. What is that about? What was that cheesy 90s pizza delivery guy porno music? What is that about?
It's exactly what it is.
Was that intended to be like that?
Yeah, it was absolutely intended. That was absolutely my nod to kind of bad 80s.
Okay.
Erotic thrillers as well. They use that kind of music a lot of the time.
I thought you were doing it unironically. That would have annoyed me. But the fact that you have a reason behind it, that's perfectly fine.
It's funny, right? It's just those scenes are pretty tense anyway. And yeah, it is annoying, but that's kind of why it's amusing. I like to annoy people. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, it's I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to sound okay. Let's say it's not me. Let's say it's someone else. This hypothetical person that's like, hey man, I really love this visual novel. I really want to beat my meat. And then next thing you know, this music is playing. You're like, oh shit, I'm not saying people do that, but I would imagine people are just like, could be doing that because of the tone.
Well, I mean, to be a little bit more serious, I guess, I wanted to make sure that those scenes didn't come across as too
pornographic.
Yeah, too sexy.
Okay, fair enough. I know this sounds really bad, but the fact that it exists, people are going to lewd it. Like, people are going to lewd.
Oh, for sure.
So how do you feel as the creator of Dee Dee? The fact that people may have, and this is a serious question, I'm not even joking here. How do you feel as that creator to have people potentially, assuming it gets bigger, right? That people may potentially use the character in ways that you didn't want her to be used. How would that make you feel?
I mean, I've already seen Dee Dee Rule 30 forward, so she's been around long enough that there are people that are kind of, I guess, fans of the site that have have done that. To be honest, I have to be fine with that because that's interaction with the character, right? That's they like the character and that's what they want to do, and that's fine. I mean, it's kind of to go back to what I said earlier. It's kind of like Hatsune Miku. People, I mean, the creators of Hatsune Miku see her as a very kind of sweet character, and they don't use her in that way. But you just need to go over Google and type Hatsune Miku Rule 34 to know that there's an awful lot of fan art out there down that line with her. That's interaction with the character, and that's a good thing on a very kind of objective level. I'm happy for people to use DD in that way if that's the way they want to use her. It's not how I see her, and it's certainly not what I plan on doing with her. What you see in that visual novel, the one that's out there now, that's as far as I'll probably ever go with this character. It's never going to get more extreme than that. But I don't necessarily want to see their fan art either. So if you want to draw that kind of stuff, then power to you. But please don't share it with me. If they like the character that much that they want to spend the time to go and draw her under any circumstances, then I'm happy. It means that the character's good. It means that she resonates. So that's ultimately what you want.
I've never heard... I tend to ask this to a lot of guests and stuff, and a lot of people are like, no, don't lose my characters. And it's like, I've never heard this answer before. So it's quite enlightening to hear that. It's quite mature as well. So I kind of did not expect that, but it's nice to hear.
I don't know if you've seen it, and I don't know the specifics of the story, but there was a YouTuber that got basically, copyright struck to hell and back recently because she looted some person's character for her intro, I think, to her videos. So there was no way she could get them out of all the videos, and she's I saw videos of her talking to her community, and she was very distressed by all this and stuff. And I would hate for that to happen. I would hate for somebody to use my character and for me to then turn around and do something that kind of distress them. That doesn't make sense to me. As long as people don't go out and start making commercial products using my character, I don't mind how they use it.
One other thing that I want to mention, kind of before we wrap it up, what made you want to start this project? What was the driving force behind it? Like, what did you just wake up one day and was like, I want to do this, let's do that? Or like, what was the inspiration behind this whole project?
Yeah, it's a couple of things came together. I've liked making games since I was a kid. I've never had any coding capabilities whatsoever, so that's limited my ability to actually make things. But years and years ago, before they even officially released them in English, I was downloading pirated copies of RPG Maker, the early RPG Maker, so I could make games. There was no way to get these things legally at the time, and since I've actually gone out and kind of bought them all on Steam anyway, so please don't sue me for things I did as a 14, 15-year-old. But yeah, I downloaded this thing. I taught myself how to play it to use it through the really bad tutorials. But because it was drag and drop, I was able to make kind of little RPGs, and I shared them around with my friends and stuff. And we had good fun with that. Then I kind of got into RPGs, Japanese RPGs in a big way. Started up a website significantly in part because I wanted to cover Japanese games. Discovered visual novels a little bit later on because, as you're probably aware, visual novels weren't really a thing until relatively recently in the West. They've really only kind of come up in the last 5 or 6 years. So I discovered how much I loved visual novels. I looked into ways to make visual novels early on, Ren'Py and Unity and all those other stuff, but they all required skills beyond what I have and have the time to learn because I'm a busy person, so I just don't have the time to learn how to use a system like that. So when Visual Novel Maker came out, I was like, this is a good opportunity because it is so easy to use. And from that point, I played around. I sat on it for quite a while because I wasn't quite sure how I could justify spending the time to do it. But then I realized that I have this Patreon, and I don't lock any content behind the Patreon because I don't believe that's how digitally downloaded should work. I don't think it should be paywalled. But I had the Patreon, and I was asking people to give me some money, and I needed to give something back to them in return for supporting me. that's where I realized I could do this visual novel where I could release it at a price, which is $8 per month. Oh, sorry, $8 per the download. But then I could give it to my Patreons for nothing beyond what they're already giving me, so they can support me for $1 a month or whatever, and they will get the visual novels. And this is my way of giving them something in return for supporting me. So that's where that came. And then I realized that this should be a kind of a pillar of what we do. We do the website, we do videos, we do podcasts, and we do visual novels.
That being said, thank you very much, Matt, for coming on. I mean, this is the first time we had you on the podcast. We were supposed to have you on for a different episode, so my apologies that we didn't really get onto that. But it's great that at least your debut episode on the podcast is about your game. And I mean, if anyone listening is like, oh, this seems like a really cool idea, please just buy it. Just fucking buy the game. It's not difficult. It's $8. Go and buy it, guys. And go and buy every volume after that. And why not, join the Patreon?
Well, I really appreciate being able to come on and talk about my stuff so much. Thank you for that.
That's all right.
I'd love to come on at another point and talk about stuff that's not to do with what I'm doing. So, if there's ever a chance to jump on, and if you ever feel like I can contribute to your podcast, I'm always available.
Is there anything else that you want to plug that I haven't already plugged for you?
No, I think you've done a really good job of plugging everything I've done in my life. So thanks very much for that.
It's all right, no problem.
Thank you for recommending people to buy it, the game and all that. I guess the main thing is I just want people to enjoy it. I enjoyed making it, and I really do hope that people do enjoy it. And once they play it, if they have any ideas, if there's anything that they'd like to see me do, just get in touch, because I like hearing what other people would like to see DD get up to, and I'd certainly do my best to accommodate everybody within my content roadmap that I've got.
You know what I would like? I know it sounds really weird, but I would like to see a murder mystery, like a game of Cluedo or a game of Clue, but with your characters. That would be interesting.
I've got something similar in the roadmap. I do have one of my favorite genres is actually noir, so Raymond Chandler, kind of 40s, 50s, Humphrey Bogart kind of crime films. So something like that is certainly on the cards, and you'll probably see it sooner rather than later. It'll have all those kind of mystery elements that you're talking about there. So yes, that's definitely something I have in mind. Just
to end this up, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the podcast. Remember, we also do other podcasts, so it's not just a gaming podcast. We do an anime podcast, and yeah, go and check that out. All the links are in the description below, as well as links to the game, which is available on PC and Mac for $8. It's awesome. Anyway, so thank you very much, Matt, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's all right. Anytime, dude. If you guys want to see Matt come on again, because we were originally going to plan to do an episode about Dynasty Warriors, or I don't know how you pronounce it because you're Australian. Do you pronounce it Dynasty or Dynasty?
Dynasty. Yeah,
okay, so
Dynasty.
It's weird because in the UK we pronounce it Dynasty, and even Koei Europe pronounces it as Dynasty, but I say Dynasty because all of the promotional material were from the US when the game released originally in the UK. I just learned it the wrong way, I guess. But it's called Dynasty Warriors. So, we were planning to do an episode about Dynasty Warriors, our thoughts on it. So if you guys want to see that, please tell me. And then we'll do that. Because apparently, I'm not sure if you know Nathan from Koei Tecmo. We have to mention him every
I
episode
know him
of this
well.
podcast.
He's a good guy.
So he came up to me in MCM Expo and he was like, well, Bish, you're the Santa Claus of Koei games, so people ask you and then we end up making the games. And I don't know if he was joking or if he was being serious. So I feel like I have this power. So anyone that wants Koei games, tell me and I'll try my best to wish it into existence. Like we predicted 2 games because Nathan asked us, what games do you want to see in the future? And that was like 2 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I would like to see a Persona Muso game or like an action RPG, which Koei are doing. And then my twin sister was like, yeah, I would like to see a Fairy Tail RPG. And I was like, both of them were just announced. And I was like, the fuck? Are we like psychics? Are we like... Does Koei listen to us directly? Maybe they do. But that's besides the point.
You have to tell them to get some Project Zero action happening. It's been too long since I last did one of those.
You know what? No, I'm not into that. That's
really?
Yeah, well, I'm not into that. And
Ooh.
Matt, to be honest with you, you're not on my good list. You're on my naughty list. So I mean, I'm not gonna put that on there. All you're gonna get is a lump of coal, mate. That's all you're gonna get. I'm sorry.
I'm so sad.
It's all right. It's all right. I mean, if you can wish for another game that's more interesting, I can maybe see what I can do about hassling Koei for it. Like, if you were to say Dynasty Warriors 10 or like Kessen 4, I'll be like, yes, let's do that. But you're not suggesting interesting games to me. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, we could always have a Samurai Warriors using the same open world kind of thing.
Oh no. I really don't want. I really don't want to get into this.
You were going to have me on the podcast so I could defend Dynasty Warriors 9. Well, I'm going to at some stage.
You are. I originally wanted to have Jim Sterling on it because I know I wanted to have you versus Jim, because it's like two sides of like this fucked up coin. Like, Jim Sterling hates the game, and I'm kind of on Jim's side. There's some good things about the game, but there's some things that I really didn't like about it, and I really wanted to talk that with you, but I had to cancel because, like, he's such a busy guy, and also I didn't want there to be a fight on air because he's a great guy, but he just berates people. So I didn't want.
I'm a big fan of Jim. I would love to get into a debate with Jim.
Yeah.
That would be good fun. I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's great.
I'll try my best to facilitate it, I guess. But
I think it would be awesome.
I know his feelings on the game, and I mean, I don't want to be in that conversation, especially if he's getting heated. I'll leave it to the professionals at that point. I just want to be the guy that's there. Like, the YouTuber boxing? Maybe we can arrange that, you and Jim, because I know Jim likes to wrestle, so maybe you want to get in the ring with Jim Sterling about Dynasty Warriors 9. You'll probably get beaten the shit out of, because like, he does like American wrestling, so I mean...
Well, he probably would be in the ring.
Yeah, I think he would.
I'd be able to drop some truth bombs on him about Dynasty Warriors 9. I'll turn him around. You watch.
Well, I don't think you would. That being said, I'll see you guys later. Bye.